What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Battlefield Project podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Rhoda, and we are the podcast for people who understand that life is a battle and only the strong will thrive. I'm joined by my good friend here, Nicky, Billou, who I'm going to introduce in a moment. But before I do, two things here real quick. One, thank you for listening as I shine a light on our guests. The point of this podcast is to have our guests come on, share some of the battles that they've experienced in life, how they fought their way through those battles and why they fought their way through those battles, because life is all about picking yourself up when you get knocked down and overcoming challenges. And that's how people live the good life, and they don't play that victim card. Second, if you're watching this episode as a past recording and you're getting any value out of it, I'd really appreciate it if you would share it with any friends and family who this message might specifically relate to or resonate with. That is the goal of this podcast, is to inspire people, build people up, and help them overcome those challenges that we all face in our lives. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my good guest here, my good friend, Nicky Billou, AKA the Millionaire Maker. He's the #1 international best-selling author of 8 books, which is super impressive, including Finish Line Thinking, How to Think and Win Like a Champion, The Thought Leader's Journey, A Fable of Life, The Power of Connecting, How to Activate Profitable Relationships by Serving Your Network, How to Create $1 Million a Year Income, The Priceless Guide for Insurance Agents, Professional Salespeople, and Anyone with a Big Dream. He has read over 4,000 books in genres from biography, history, fictional literature, self-help, health and fitness, poetry, business, sales, spirituality, and religion. And Nicky is the host of the #1 podcast in the world for thought leadership called The Thought Leader Revolution, which has featured guests like Dr. Ken Blanchard, John Maxwell, and Jack Canfield. That's quite a lineup, man. It's impressive.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Appreciate you having me on the show, man.
My sincere pleasure. I appreciate you being here. Awesome, man. Yeah. So like I mentioned before we hit the record button, floor is yours. Any battles you've experienced in life, anything you're comfortable sharing with our audience, and basically how you fought your way through that battle and why you fought your way through that battle.
For sure. Well, I'll tell you my backstory before I get to that. I'm originally an immigrant from the Middle East. I'm a Christian from Iran. And when I was a young boy, adversity hit when at the age of 11, the Islamic Revolution happened. And the relatively benign dictatorship of the Shah of Iran was replaced by the absolute tyranny of the mullahs. If you look at pictures of Iran from the 50s and 60s to the mid-70s, you see a very westernized, carefree place. And if you see pictures of Iran after that, you see a very repressed place where, you know, women are forced to cover themselves up and really not a great place to be. And my late father, God rest his soul, he could see the writing on the wall that this was not going to be a great place to raise his Christian family. So what he did is he made a plan, and he eventually got us out of Iran, and we settled where we now live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I thank God every day for my dad and his foresight.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know how much you follow the news, Matt, but Iran is going through a lot of turmoil right now. 5.5 months ago, a 22-year-old young woman named Mahsa Amini was beaten to death by the police for the crime of walking outdoors with her hair uncovered. Because in Iran, as a woman, you have to cover up your hair and your skin. You think about that. And I know there's a lot of people these days, you know, they're not a majority, but they're saying, America, what a horrible, oppressive, racist, sexist, terrible place. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
This is the most amazing, tolerant, wonderful society in the history of the freaking world. I'm not saying it's perfect, but give me a break. Come to Iran, I'll show you what oppression looks like. Open your mouth there in Iran like you do over here, and they'll grab you and beat you in a prison and, you know, make sure that you never see the light of day.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. We should all be grateful we get to live here. We get to live in freedom. You know what I'm talking about? It is a blessing given to us by God Almighty. You know, and that's an important thing for everybody to understand. So anyways, my dad, he was an entrepreneur. He was an uplifter of humanity. So if you knew Dad and you were looking for work, he'd make some calls and get you a job. If you were looking to start a business, he'd sit down with you, he'd plan with you, he'd even bring advisors and capital your way so you could get started. And if you knew him and you were trying to buy a car or a house or an apartment and you didn't have enough money, he would top that up. And you might go to yourself, what are you talking about? Who does that? Who buys people cars and houses and apartments? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
How come I didn't know this guy? Right? Like,
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is Napoleon Billou, my late father, he did that. Why? Well, first of all, he was a Christian. He believed he'd been blessed by God Almighty and Jesus Christ. And it was his duty as a Christian to share those blessings with other people. He took that very seriously. And secondly, he did it because he could. He was rich. He had the money.
Yeah.
And he wanted to help people. And like I saw my dad as a kid growing up, and I like, wow, man, this guy is amazing. This is my father. I'm his son. And I wanted to be like him. So that's why I got into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And I started to work with entrepreneurs. And the thing that I want to tell you about that was that Dad would always come to me, Matt, and say, son, you just got to remember, life is about people. It's not about money.
Mm-hmm.
And business is about people. It's not about money. It's not the numbers. It's the people. What is business? He would say to me, business is about solving problems for people for profit.
Yep.
And I go, wow, yeah, that's good. Solving problems for people for profit. Because at the end of the day, every business provides an outcome to a problem that someone has. And that was a powerful lesson that I learned from my dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we came from Iran. We came to the West. You got to understand that was a big culture shock, big adjustment for us when we got here. That was an initial battle that we fought, as it were, to be able to fit in the side. And my dad always said to me that I should be somebody who helps people and does things for people. And so like I really took that on, and I wanted to be like Dad. I wanted to help people. And so I got into the business of helping people. I was a top fitness coach for over a decade. Wow. I worked with Olympic champion athletes. I worked with billionaires. I worked with some of the most famous entrepreneurs in Canada. I had a brand called the CEO Health Coach. Nice. Dude, it was wild. It was really cool. And I got to help people get healthy and fit. And I had a lot of knowledge and expertise in that arena. And I lived it. You know what I mean? I was a shredded dude well into my mid-40s, right? But another battle came my way at that point in time. And my then wife, seemingly out of the blue, decided she didn't want to be married to me anymore. Now, looking back, maybe I should have seen it coming, but at the time I didn't see it coming at all. Yeah. I was caught unawares, and I spiraled down. I was blaming everybody but myself. I took no responsibility. Yep. And I was very fortunate in that I signed up to work with a man who worked with men who were dealing with relationship distress, as he put it, right? And he had a group of men, so I joined that group. And through being around other men and having real conversations, you know what I'm saying? Yep. Like real conversations, I finally got to a point where I took responsibility. It took years. It didn't happen right away. And when I took responsibility for that, I wasn't able to put my family back together because I wasn't in the cards. She didn't have an interest in that. But what I was able to do was I was able to put my life back together again. You know what I'm talking about? Yep. And it was during that time where my business had fallen apart, and I felt I needed to go in a new direction. So I was at a business conference, and I heard a man deliver a talk, and the talk spoke to me right here, man, with a lot of power. And when the talk was over, I approached him. His name was Bill. I said, Bill, my name is Nicky. Nice to meet you. And I said, I really liked your speech. And I told him my story. And by the time I was done, I said, I think I need to hire you. He looked at me with a skeptical eye. He said, okay, well, you need to understand that my minimum fee is $5,000 for 5 hours of coaching. I get paid upfront in advance. There are no refunds and there are no guarantees. You still want to work with me? I was like, whoa. Now you got to understand, Matt, I had been sleeping on my mother's couch. Grown man, 2 sons. I had not made money in a while.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
$5,000 was all the money in the world to me. That was probably all the money I'd made in the past 12 months at that time. And I told him that. And Matt, what I'm about to share with you transformed my life. And it's going to transform the lives of everyone listening. He said to me, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to give you some free coaching. And I'm like, free coaching? Bonus. Let's roll. So he said, it doesn't matter how much money you have. I'm like, it doesn't. But I thought that was all that mattered. You want $5,000 from me before you work with me, right? He said, no, it doesn't. I said, okay, then what does matter? He said, what matters is how bad do you want change? I'm like, how bad do I want change? He said, yeah. It's not your resources that matter. It's how resourceful you are. How bad do you want change?
Mm-hmm.
Are you good to let things limp along for the next little while? Are you good to keep sleeping on your mother's couch? Are you good to be ashamed and embarrassed about the kind of father you are to your 2 sons? Are you good to bullshit yourself, excuse my language, that this is okay? I hated him in that moment. I hated him. I wanted to punch him in the mouth, but he was right. And in that moment, I made a decision that I wanted change pretty badly.
Yeah.
And I said, give me a couple days. So I was a fitness trainer then, right? And I had been talking to a couple of folks, you know, but they had not made a decision. They just said, well, you know, maybe the time isn't right. Maybe, yeah, you're charging a little much, whatever, right? But I called them with a lot of urgency. And I said, I got good news. You're fat and you need to lose weight. And I'm broke and I need money.
Let's do this.
So listen, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to give you the deal of a century, half price. But here's the catch. I need an answer right now. And if it's yes, I need payment right now because I need money.
Yep.
What's it going to be? They both said yes. So I took a $2,500 program and I gave it to them for $1,000 each. Right? I had $2,000. I was excited. I went to go see Bill at the point in time with 2. And I handed it to him. And he said, thanks, but I said 5, not 2. I was like, oh my God. So I said, Bill, how many people have you told this little story to? He said, over the years, maybe 30, 40. I'm like, oh, okay. Besides me, who else came back with any money? He said, oh, that's easy. You're the first. I said, I'm the first. You're the first. I'm like, hot diggity dog. Bill, take my money. I'll sign a contract. I'll pay you the rest in 30, 60 days, whatever the case may be. And Bill took the money. I paid him back ahead of time. The rest is history. Now, Matt, I was broke. I had no money. You understand? No money.
Yeah.
I was sleeping on my mother's couch. Okay. I could not afford gas in my car. You understand where I'm coming from,
Yeah.
right? Like, and my ex-wife, soon to be ex-wife at the time, was demanding money, right, from me,
Yeah.
who had no money.
Yeah.
Right? Why did I do this? I want to change badly. The current situation was not acceptable to me. The reason people don't take action, the reason people say, I think I'm going to hold off,
Mm-hmm.
is because their fear is bigger than their dream. Their fear is bigger than their dream. They're not saying no to you or to your program or to your offerings. They're saying no to themselves and their dream.
Mm-hmm.
Because what they're saying is, I don't believe in me to the point where I think this is going to work for me.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's to lose weight, make more money, fix their relationship, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. And I can say this because I was afraid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when this man gave me a big honking price, which right now is not a big price, but back then was all the money in the world to me,
Yep.
right? I was scared because I was like, you know,
Yeah.
I couldn't even get the words out, right? I can't make it happen. I don't believe in me enough. But when he hit me between the eyes with how bad do you want, I'm like, I want change. I believe I can do it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
That was it, brother.
Yeah.
That was what made it happen for me, is that I was in a position that I wanted change. I was going through a divorce that I did not seek and I did not want, but it was forced upon me at that time. And I thought, why are you doing this to me? But it's not being done to me, it's being done for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had I mean, I don't know what number this is, 28, 29, 30, whatever it is, guess. So we're early in the process, but every person has come on and shared some kind of battle. That's the first it's not a spin, but that's the first that perspective and that reason to get through the battle was shared so directly and impactfully, is just how bad you want change. Like everybody talked about, kind of insinuated why they got through the battle because they kind of wanted change, but it was never stated like that matter of fact directly, that it's like you either want it or you don't. And if you do, like you had $0, but you're like, I want it really fucking bad, I'm going to figure this out, like I'll be back in a day or two, and like bam, you took extreme ownership and got enough money to get him to believe in you enough to give you that second chance, and then you proved yourself and proved him right that it made sense to believe in you and take a chance on you. That's powerful. Super powerful.
I'm glad that it's having an impact.
Yeah.
So for me, I went from broke to respectable. And the battles don't stop coming though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got into business with a client of mine. I was a fitness coach. I was his coach. He was my last fitness client. I was transitioning into the world of helping entrepreneurs. And he and I were having a conversation one day after our workout. We'd go take a steam bath, you know, because the gym we were at had a steam bath and what's it called? A whirlpool.
Yeah.
I just go into that whirlpool, feel those jets on my back. Dude, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. So we would just chat, you know what I mean? He was a bright man. And I would just sit there and, you know, listen to him talk. And one day I just said, I really love our conversations. We should be in a mastermind together, you know? And I kind of thought him and I would just like, we would start and we'd just bring a few people. Mm-hmm. It never occurred to me to charge for it, you know? Like, he looks me in the eye and he goes, "That is a great idea." And I'm like, "It is?"
Yeah, cool.
So yeah. He said, "And we're going to call it the Entrepreneur Circle, E-Circle for short." I'm like, "We are?" He says, "Yeah. And we're going to charge for it." And I said, "What? We are?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Go out there and get a few people, bring them around the table." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Shit. Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. I'll do it."
Yeah.
So long story short was, we got a dozen people to pay us at the time $5,000 a year to be in that group. And it was great. And then he said to me, "We're not finding a way to scale this. I mean, it was good we got a dozen people, but we're not scaling this." And I was like, "Oh, okay. So what do I do here? What do we do?" And he said, "We should do something else." I'm like, "Okay, what?" He said, "Well, I've been studying with these dudes out of Australia. They're doing something called thought leadership." I'm like, "What's thought leadership?" He said, "Well, it's how you become known for being an expert in something, and people want to do business with you because you're known." I'm like, "That sounds good." He said, "Well, let's teach people how to be thought leaders." And I'm like, "But until 2 minutes ago, I didn't even know what thought leadership was.
Yeah. And now I'm teaching. Yeah. Yep.
How to be thought leaders." He said, "Don't worry, I'll show you. We'll figure it out." I'm like, "Okay." So long story short was, we started and we did that for 2 years. We worked together and we generated just shy of $400,000 a year.
Wow.
Doing this.
Awesome.
And we had a whole bunch of people that we helped. And there were people we helped that were like broker than broke, that we took to 300,000, 500,000 a year. It was amazing. Like, the methodology really worked and the community of people really worked.
Yeah.
And at the end of that 2 years, though, there was trouble in paradise. We had some differences of opinion. The biggest difference was that he had another business and he was also really working in that. And I was doing a lot more work. And I was starting to resent the fact that we got paid the same, but I did more work.
Yep.
Anyway, so he didn't like that. And he walks over to me and he goes, "I'm out." I'm like, "What? This was your idea, your vision. I'm out." And dude, that was horrendous. I went home and I bawled.
Yeah.
I bawled privately, but I bawled like it was like a marriage breaking up
Yeah.
all over again, right? Because I committed at that same level, and I didn't think this needed to go this way. I think we could have figured it out, but no, he didn't want to figure it out. He wanted to go. So he wanted me to buy him out. Not at first, but eventually he wanted me to buy him out, pay him money.
Yeah.
So I had to generate money, and we've hired a mediator, and I paid him a good chunk of change for the company and for his share of it. And I bought him out. And once he got bought out, the business grew in 2018. Like, it was, almost doubled.
Wow.
But in 2019, when he left, he had been a big part of, the energy of how to put things together and whatnot. And that was all gone.
Yeah.
So we dipped down a little bit. And I was just trying to figure out, how am I going to help people? How am I going to do this without this guy? So I had to sit down and train myself, because he did the first half of the events we did. He did it all. So I had to go and figure it all out. Like, for a year during the buyout, he still kept doing it all. So in 2019, I had to go sit down and learn how to do this and make tweaks and changes, which I did. And I was working with my lady. We were in business together. A new lady in my life. And she's really good at coaching. She's been a Tony Robbins coach.
Nice.
She's done 7 years of that, 12,000 plus hours of coaching people. So, you know, she's got her 10,000 hours plus 2,000.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's well over the threshold.
Right. So, but she's, you know, selling isn't something that lights her up. So, I've done the selling. 2020 comes along, live events aren't a thing. The first quarter of the year, we had a great live event. We had a bunch of great people there. It was amazing. But then COVID hits, we get locked down, boom. It was just rough and tough. And 2021, we found a way to do it with Zoom events over that time. Not the same as doing in-person events. It really isn't. I don't care what anybody says. So we kept doing that, and we found a way to keep it alive. And now finally we got opened up in mid 2022, and we've done a few live events since then. And we're starting to build our community back, because our community really just started to shrink in a big way. But right now we have our last event, you know, because we charge a high ticket, right? I think I told you about that. We had 9 people, which is good. And then 2 of them signed up to be a part of the year-long mastermind, which is an even higher ticket event. So we had a 6-figure month, more than a 6-figure month in January 2023. But all of this, you know, having a partner leave, just like having my wife leave, was all about me looking at me pushing hard, taking responsibility. And I've been working with a coach throughout this time. And, you know, the theme of how bad do you want change came to me again from him. He said, look, you're doing decently well, but are you okay with this? I'm like, no, I want to do amazingly well. And he looked at me and he says, well, how bad do you want change? So if you really want change, you're going to have to step it up. You're going to have to invest some money and build yourself some lead generation tools. And you're going to have to bring in leads so that you can go from 9 people in an event to 30. If 30 is good. I like 30 is a good number, right? We do 30 people at 4 events a year. Damn, that's amazing. That's a $1 million a year right there, right? Without any upsells or anything like that, you know. And so that's what we've been doing. And what I saw was that the people that have been coming to us have all been good people. You know what I'm talking about? They are good people. They want to make a difference in the world. But 2 things are getting in their way. Number one is they're not necessarily business people. They don't necessarily understand marketing and hiring and firing and culture, customer service. They don't get all that. Especially marketing and sales. So they do a few things really wrong. So I'll tell you about sales. So on the sales end, one is they're like, they don't even want to sell. They're like, oh my God, I don't want to come across as that pushy, you know, fuller brush salesman going to Best Buy. They don't leave you alone until you buy something you want to take a shower after. Jesus. You know, so they don't want to do that, right? And so they don't go after business they should be going after. You know what I mean? Because they want to not be perceived a certain way. Why is that bad? Because they lose out on money that, you know, their family suffers because they should have gotten that business, right? And so what happens there? Well, the person that they could have helped doesn't get them. Instead, they get some charlatan marketer, some sizzle seller who comes in and scoops up the business because they know how to sell.
Yep.
But they don't care if they deliver anything. And so that client doesn't get a good result. And the sum total of goodness in the world goes down. So that's one thing I noticed. So I thought, well, let's help people reframe selling, because selling is a word that turns some people into crazy people when they hear it, right?
Yep.
So I said, what if we look at it as serving and not selling?
Perfect.
You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Serving, not selling. Like as a Christian man, you know, we believe in service.
Yep.
Service is how we move forward in life. And you don't want to be sold, Matt. I don't want to be sold. You don't want someone pushing you into doing something you know you're not comfortable doing.
Yep.
I don't want to be doing that, but you love being served. I'm sure you love it when someone like genuinely, sincerely cares about you and they want to see you win.
Yep.
And they want what's best for you and not, you know, necessarily what's just best for them.
Yep.
Right. So when I've helped people reframe that, and obviously it's more than just saying it one time, right? There's a rewiring of the thinking process that has to occur and it takes time. But once it does take place, that alone allows good people to double, triple their business because they go after business, you know, that they should be going after, right? And they'll get it. They're good people. So that's number one. And number two is they really don't know how to stand out. And we talked about thought leadership before. Thought leadership, what is it? Well, thought leadership, you know, that if you're an expert, you know something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But experts are a dime a dozen. If you're a thought leader, you're known for knowing something. Thought leaders are rare and valuable. Experts are here. Thought leaders are up here, right? Like, so how do you become a thought leader? People go, just call yourself one. Well, no, it's not.
Some people
simple,
do,
right?
but it's not that simple. Yeah.
No, it's not. And okay, I'll position myself as one. That's nice. But no, then you're just a charlatan marketer because you position yourself. You become a thought leader by doing the work and figuring out what it takes. So I'm going to just briefly show you something, if you don't mind, you know, and I'd like your listeners and your viewers to be able to see what I'm doing here because I think it's very, very valuable.
Awesome.
This is what I call a folder of my expertise. I learned about this methodology from these fellows in Australia that, you know, my old partner was connected with. It's called winning, right? So winning, phenomenal. This here is a series of pink-colored IP, intellectual property snapshot sheets. There are 56 of these. Each one of these guys and gals has a statement of expertise. Each one has an explanation, a deeper explanation of that statement so you can understand it better. Each one has a series of case studies, and there's a literature review of books and academic studies that back all this up. There is also a visual model and a metaphor that explains this statement through the use of a metaphor. On the back, there are 7 different ways to say it, and there are 20 questions. These 20 questions on this subject will allow you to have a lesson, coaching session. This also, 20 of these done like this are a licensable product that you can take out into the world, license to other coaches and consultants to teach.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to say over here?
Yeah, totally.
Matt? Now, this is thought leadership, not me saying, I know how to help you win.
A Facebook post that says this is who.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not going on Instagram and taking videos of houses you don't own and cars you don't own and saying, I'm going to make you a whack load of money.
Yeah.
Now, this fella in Australia, the reason why we ended up following his work and learning about it was because he's been doing it for over 20 years. He has close to 2,000 people that have done his program. Half of them make $500,000 to $2.5 million a year. Of the remaining half, 60% make $250,000 to $500,000 a year. We're talking 83% make $250,000 to $2.5 million a year out of 2,000 people. Now, I don't know about you. I've done a lot of personal development and professional development. I've taken programs and courses from the biggest names in the industry. They're lucky if 5% of the people that do their programs get the kind of results I was talking about. Do you agree with me? They're lucky if 5% get it.
Yep.
We're not quite as good as the Australians, but I would say 60% of the people that do work with us add between 6 and 8 figures to their annual income. That is a result I'm very proud of.
As you should be. That changes lives. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you ask me, Nicky, what's the battle that you have fought? Well, I've fought a lot of battles, but the battle I'm fighting today is the battle for good men and women that are in business, that are, you know, maybe not doing as well as they ought to be doing, but they're good and they got really good material, but maybe they don't have the courage to believe, so they don't charge enough. Maybe they don't have the belief that, you know, people are going to listen, and they don't want to come across as push going after business they should be, or maybe they just don't have the intellectual framework so people know why they should do business with them, which is important.
Absolutely.
But my battle that I'm fighting now is I'm looking for people like that to serve and to help them win, because I do one person at a time like that, you know. And I'll tell you a couple of stories just to wrap things up here.
Yeah.
But back in 2018, so 5 years ago, wow, time is flying, man. 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I was introduced to a woman. And my former business partner knew her as well. She was a rock star. She had been the country director for Canada for one of the world's oldest and largest personal development firms.
Okay.
These guys teach you how to look at all the imprints on your psyche from the time you were born to 13, and understand how to rewire them to help you get past that stuff so you win. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Really solid, incredible, great stuff, right? So she brought a guy on to help her run the company, someone she thought was very talented, right? And for a while, it really worked. They were growing. It was great. It's kind of like Steve Jobs and Apple back in the day, in the 80s, when he brought John Scully from Pepsi over. And just like Steve and John, you know, they did great for a while, but after about a year, their visions of the future started to diverge. And just like Steve Jobs, she got kicked out of her own company, bro.
Yeah.
She got kicked out of her own company. Like, she was going, how do I get kicked out of a company I started? How does this work? But it happened. And she spiraled. She was bereft. She was lost. She was scared. She had a young family, you know, her husband, but she was the main breadwinner. I mean, he worked, don't get me wrong, but she was like the driver. You know what I'm talking about? And she got introduced to us, and she's like, she's ready for change. She's ready for change, right? And we poured into her. You know, we poured into her. Good Christian folk like we are, we poured into her. We helped her get past, you know, the hurt that she had over being dumped by the company. We helped her get clear on her expertise, helping her build some of this stuff that I showed you, client. And she had a list of people she could call, like 1,000 people, high-level entrepreneurs. And so we put her out there. She started to do her thing. In her first month, she made 10 grand. She was excited.
Yeah.
In her second month, she made 12 grand. In her third month, she made 18 grand. It was amazing.
Awesome. Yeah.
18 grand, man. It was really great. But in her fourth month, brother, she crushed it. She made $62,200. Sorry, not 22. So she just over tripled, right?
Yeah.
It was wild. So inside of our work, we have a belt system, martial arts belt system. Let me just quickly show you. Here we go. So can you see this?
Yeah, I mean the words are a little tough to read, but the gist of it and the colors and
Yeah,
stuff.
so this is like a white belt. It's 10 grand a month.
Okay.
Yellow belt is 20 grand a month. Green belt is 30. At 60 grand a month, you're a black belt.
Okay.
So she hit black belt in 4 months, right?
Yeah.
That's just under $750,000 a year. And then you can go to like, higher levels of black belt, fifth dan or whatever. And
Yeah.
she did it in 4 months, which at the time was the fastest anybody had ever done it. It was like ridiculously quick,
Yeah,
right?
that is.
So she lives in Ottawa. I live in Toronto. Ottawa is the capital of city of Canada. It's a 5-hour drive from Toronto.
Okay.
And my oldest son plays soccer, or as I like to call it, the real football, because you actually play it with your feet, brother.
Yeah.
I love football, but that thing's with your hands, man. They're gonna call it, I don't know, throw ball or something. But anyway, so he had a soccer tournament in Ottawa, right? This is 5 years ago. He was 12 years old. So I called her up and I just said, hey, we're coming to Ottawa, my son and I, for the soccer tournament. You want to bring your son and watch him play? And she said, yeah, sounds good. So anyways, they came, they watched the game. We won. We all hugged. We had a quick bite to eat. Everybody went their separate ways. Mm-hmm. I come back to Toronto. And just a few weeks later, we had one of our quarterly branded thought leader immersion workshops, right? And we got to the part of the workshop where we do the upsell, like year-long program. Mm. And the way I do my upsells is I don't do the pitch. I actually ask my people to talk about what they get.
Yeah.
So in the room, people get up and they say, hey, here's where I was, here's where I am now, blah, 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 right? So, long story short, is I just kind of got to that point and I looked around and I said, is there anybody you'd like to share? And she just bounds up on stage, like almost knocks me over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, me. So I didn't have a chance to pick anybody because she's on stage, right? Yep. So normally there was 2-3 people that would share. So she's on stage and anyways, long story short was she gets up on stage, she looks at the whole room, and brother, she starts to cry. She's bawling, she's sniffling. And I am like any man. You see a woman crying around you, you're like, well, what's wrong? And what did I do to make her cry, right?
Yeah.
So my lady brings her tissues and I'm keeping cool, but inside I'm going, what is going on, man?
Yeah.
So she continues to cry while she speaks. And she's like, Nicky, you didn't know this, but I'm coming to see you. And my little son's in the back seat and he's like all excited that we're going out. And he goes, mommy, who are we going to go meet? And she says, oh, we're going to go meet Nicky, Billou, and his son. And then she says, all of a sudden, the little boy got real quiet, right? And says, oh, mommy, are we going to get to meet the man who saved our family? Now, Matt, I usually don't cry in public.
Yeah.
I'm old school Iranian man, raised in a masculine culture. It's not what I do.
Yeah.
I cried. I just cried. Like when she said that, we hugged. Oh my God. And she's like, she's still bawling and I'm bawling.
Yeah.
And she said, Nicky, when we met, I didn't tell you, but I hadn't paid my mortgage in months. The bank was about to foreclose.
Yeah.
And my husband and I, we were fighting every day like cats and dogs in front of our kids over money, worried to death that we were going to lose our family, that we were going to break up. My kids were like scared we were going to break up.
Yeah. You
literally helped us save our family.
That's incredible.
And man, I'm sitting here going, the theme of this show is fighting battles, right? what's the battle I'm fighting? Yeah, I'm fighting for my family. I'm fighting to be successful and known and all that. All that's true. But you know what I'm really fighting for? I'm fighting for families like this young lady's.
Yeah.
I ask God to make me worthy of being able to fight those kinds of battles on behalf of those people.
Yeah.
And here's the best part. There were 8 prospects in the room. And you got to get our year-long program is a high ticket match.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, brother. It looks like
Now,
my internet dropped for a minute.
yeah, no, you first for a split second there. No
What
worries.
was the last thing you
The
heard?
high ticket item, like the
Yeah, this is a high ticket item, right?
yep.
It is a high ticket item. It's a year's salary for some people to do that
Yeah.
mastermind. Okay. Um, and there were 8 people in the room. Everyone bought on the spot. Nobody had questions. Nobody had fear.
Yeah.
It's all signed. And I just realized that, you know what? The reason they all signed was because that little boy is the best salesman I ever had.
Yeah. That one sentence got it.
Yeah, it really did. And it's very humbling, man. The battle I fight is the battle for people, the battle for human beings, because human beings are why we're here on this earth, man.
Yeah.
And
Amen,
on
man.
that note,
Amen,
I'm done.
brother. Jeez, yeah. That awesome for sharing all that. I think extreme ownership was the thing I'm taking out of this. Like a couple times in your life where you had to like, I can't play the victim card. Like I got to own the fact that this happened not at the time to me, but actually for me when you got the extreme ownership, and then how bad you really want change. Like those two things, if you own both of those and keep both those like top of mind when you're going through life, navigating through tough times or navigating through, should I do this? Should I not do this? Is this worth it? Is it not worth it? You keep those two thoughts in your head and help them, allow them to help you make the decision. You'll find your way to the promised land.
Amen, my brother. Amen.
Nicky, man, where can people find you online if they want to connect with you on a personal level, just to be inspired by you or work with you? I'll put these links in the show notes, but if you have anything you want to share here at the end, kind of.
Yeah. Well, listen, if you want to find me, you just go to Google and you type in Nicky Billou, right?
Yeah.
A whole bunch of stuff's going to show up,
Yeah.
right? But if you're a business owner and you want to have a conversation about business and making 2023 your best year yet, you know, first of all, if you're in Pennsylvania, you should call Matt because he runs an amazing mastermind that you ought to be a part
Appreciate
of.
that.
But if you're not in Pennsylvania, go to eCircleacademy.com/appointment. That's how you get on my calendar. I offer something called a success coaching call. Basically, we create your vision for next year, for this year, I should say.
Yeah.
It's free of charge, and you'll be set up with a plan to go crush it. So take advantage of that.
Beautiful.
That's what I would suggest.
Awesome, Nicky. I appreciate the friendship, man. I appreciate you being here and sharing so much value, sharing your story, inspiring other people.
For sure.
I knew I was going to enjoy it. Like most of them, I'm always like, I'm going to enjoy this one. I like, you know, we chatted before, we've got a little bit of a friendship going. But man, this just made me admire you even more, respect you even more, and just the work that you're doing for humanity and for people. It's what everybody should strive to do. So thank you for doing that.
God bless your heart, my brother.
All right, everybody. If you watch this episode, like I said in the beginning, and you got value out of it, which if you watched it, you did, But yeah, I'm sure someone you know has experienced something similar in some regards, whether it's with a relationship or the business or whatever, or fear of taking the next step. Please share this show with them. I think it'll just add value to their lives and have a massive positive impact on them. So thank you for watching. Thank you. Appreciate you, brother. And I'll see you all on the battlefield.